My name is Elizabeth Samsedi, and I want to welcome you to today's episode of Family and Society Talk on this channel. It is an initiative of Pure Heart Family Development Foundation. Today I have for you a very interesting topic, a topic that you, our viewers and our listeners, will find very interesting. It's child neglect and abuse. These days, you know how rampant it is. We hear so many stories about children being abused, children being kidnapped here and there in various places in their schools and at home, even at home they get abused. But we want to talk to you today as parents that you should be deliberate about parenting, about keeping an eye and watching over your children. It is not enough as parents for us to just provide, make available money, make provisions, shelter, to pay their school fees and give them pocket money and all that. Children need much more. They need our attention. They need our presence. They need us to always be there to talk to them whenever they need. Whenever they ask questions, the parents are meant to always be there on the ground to answer, provide solutions and answers to the questions of our children. And by neglecting them when you are not there as parents, when we are not there to handle them, take care, find solutions to some of these issues, challenges, and questions they may have, it can lead to abuse. So neglect can very much as possible, lead to abuse. So this is why we are going to talk about this topic today. And I have a very interesting guest with me in the studio for us that together will trash out to this topic. So I would like you, viewers, to pay attention to today's topic, and we want you to be a part of it by commenting and giving us feedback after you may have listened and watched. I'm going to go on a very short break. I'll be right back with my guests. Welcome back. With me on the studio this day to discuss this topic is Lemmy Ugebe. No, mister. You are welcome.
Mister.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
Lemmy here is a child and gender rights advocate. He's a journalist, he's a development communication consultant, he's a public speaker and opinion influencer. Welcome once again.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Today, the topic we are discussing today is child neglect and abuse. Child neglect and abuse. What's that? When you hear the word neglect and abuse, what comes to your mind?
Okay. Those words are actually used interchangeably.
Right.
However, neglect is actually a form of abuse. You have basically four types of abuse. You have the physical abuse, you have the emotional abuse, you have neglect as the third kind of abuse, and you have sexual abuse. And basically, abuse has to do with any act or failure on the part of parents or caregiver to provide the enablement for the child to grow and become the best version of him or herself. A child has to grow roundly and holistically. A lot of times, parents think that it is about providing just the clothes, the shelter, school fees, education, and they forget that there is still a very vital need of the child if the child is to grow into a total human being who is fully formed without being disturbed. And that is the emotional aspect of growth. Most of us, especially in this climate, are really guilty of that aspect.
Right.
There's a lot of microwave parenting. I call it microwave parenting because They think parenting is 3 minutes Indomie noodles you just put on fire and all that.
Right.
Parenting is very, very demanding. It is easy, but it is demanding. So if you start in good time to begin to build the child as a total child in good time, building and working on the emotion of the child, you find that the child, beyond the shawarma, because we emphasize the monetary aspect, the
Right.
games, the Super Nintendo, the PlayStation, the vacations,
Right.
excursions here and there, and we leave those aspects that are important. For instance, you see that your two siblings, your kids, siblings from age 2, 3, one is 3, okay, let's say one is 5, the other is 3. And you are seeing a lot of hostilities, you are seeing a lot of fighting and all that. It's normal when kids are growing up. But if you begin to work on those children, on their value set, on their emotional formation in good time, you find that those frictions are reduced. But we just think that the way to settle John just hit me is to give an ice cream and reprimand John. No, there's a lot more. So really, we must emphasize that the typical abuse that we have, a lot of times not physical. For instance, parents, especially these days, parents hardly really spank their kids, so it's not really physical. But emotional, they think and they confuse it and think that when they give in the best of clothing, give in the best of vacations, they are providing both the physical and the emotional.
No,
The emotional is missing. And typically, most children grew up into adulthood without getting emotionally fed by their parents.
Wow. Okay. What are the causes of, what can we say is the cause of parents neglecting their children?
Okay. We have to take it back to maybe our generation or generations of our parents. One, how were they also socialized? How were they also groomed? You can't give what you don't have.
True.
And that's why when we have, they say the world has gone global. It's no longer called a global village, it's a global village, because you have now localized it and made America look local like Nigeria, you know. So you find that parents need to update because they can't give what they don't have. They were not also brought up. They were brought up at the level where children should be seen, not heard. What betide you that you sit where your parents are receiving their friends?
Right.
The highest you can do, the favor they will do you is come and greet and go away.
True.
So nobody is paying attention to the fact that you may have something to say or a question to ask. So children should be seen, not heard. And you are only seen temporarily. You can disappear later on. Now, if that is so, how we were raised, we have to be extremely, liberal and courageous to tell ourselves it was not enough. We were not fed fully with how it should be. And know that there is a deficit if we are to give it to our children, because you can't give what you don't have.
Sure.
So intentional parenting means going back, going to learn, going to make up with what is. You can't raise a 21st century child the way a 16th century child was raised.
Absolutely.
There are gadgets that were not there then are there now. So if you just say, okay, he needs to do his homework, and you throw iPad and all the Android phones at the child, and you have not done the emotional and the spiritual training of the child, what happens? The child, and there is artificial intelligence, you won't believe it, how very delicate it is, even when the child is not also looking for instance, explicit movies. You find that artificial intelligence, some of the people are funny, they will throw in, so long as that phone or iPad has a data, whatever, they'll throw in certain materials that are capable of corrupting the child.
Distract the child. Yeah.
So if, because they don't really talk to us, did anybody really talk to our generation about sex? Parents won't tell us anything
No,
about
in our
sex.
time, no, you can't even go ask anything near that
In
at
our
all.
time, even when you wedded, you may kiss the bride. It's a
Yes,
joke.
exactly.
You can't try that. Even when you are married, you are wedding, on the
Yes,
day they say you may kiss
yes,
the bride, you
yes,
can't do that.
exactly.
So you find that we need to update and upgrade. We are not saying come and preach immorality, but the fact is that immorality is lurking by the corner, left, right, center. A parent who deceives himself to say he is not aware or my children are not seeing it is joking. The only way
Not deceiving
the only way you can do it is make sure from small. People say you see a 4 or 5 year old child misbehaving. I saw one of the videos of a celebrity, and the celebrity was eating the bum of the mother, and the mother felt good about it. She wasn't reprimanding and all that. And I say, there are things you do not do. You start checking it from time. Because part of why we have sexual abuse, pedophilia going on, and even rape and all, is because of the orientation we gave to the kids from beginning, where it does not know that there is a boundary. There is what not to do. There's what to do.
So
it's a lot of work.
In other words, the causes of child neglect.
Lack of knowledge on the part of parents, lack of attention also. Parents are so busy trying to work, trying to make ends meet, that they have abandoned that aspect. Because, of course, it's tough even for both parents to be out working and meet the needs. So both must be out, and still meeting the needs is very, I'm not talking of want, I'm talking of needs, very tough. So you find that they've left these kids to the vagaries of life and to house helps, domestic assistants, who you do not also know how they were also socialized, how they were trained.
Exactly.
A lot of cases have shown where domestic assistants called house helps have abused children sexually within the place they are supposed to care for them.
Absolutely.
So parents, despite the fact that times are hard, there's economic need that makes both of them to be out at the same time. Parents must still return and make it a point of duty. Intentionally spend at least 1 hour, 2 hours to have conversation
with the children.
And when the children say certain things that shock you, do not show shock.
Right.
Do not show shock. You need to suck it in, then find a way to engage in a way that encourages the child to tell you more.
Exactly.
But if you say, what do you mean? The child just locks up and you will never get information.
Again. Okay. What are the symptoms of neglect?
Okay.
Let me start with neglect. Yes.
Okay. Basically, symptom is
because children react.
Yes.
When they are neglected.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
absolutely, you find that the child is even low self-esteem sets in. The child has low self-esteem. The child's attention span is very, very, very low. You find the child is unhappy. You find that the child does not look excited and excitable at all. Will not perform well in school because, of course, once you are depressed. Child depression is a reality. The child is depressed, and unfortunately, in those days, our teachers were genuinely like our second parents.
Yes.
They would notice.
They were observant.
Yes, they were like our second parents, and they spent more time with us than our parents did.
Than we do these days.
So you find that those ones may notice and begin to try to help. But more often than not,
or
the
draw
child
the attention of the parents.
Yes, that's even a major way to help, Then they even adopt you, and you find that a teacher with his meager salary is buying you snacks and talking good to you. There's a lot that is missing when neglect comes up. The child lacks emotional food, and because of that, self-esteem is very low. The child is worthless, and that's part of the reason you see sometimes children as little as they are lured by pedophiles, by adults who want to take advantage of them because they didn't get the attention they deserved. They were neglected.
I want us to clearly explain or discuss the relationship between neglect and abuse, how they are related,
Okay.
which eventually could, even from abuse, get into domestic violence. So I want us to just enlighten our viewers a little bit
Okay.
on the connection.
Okay. Like I said earlier, these words are used interchangeably, but
Yes.
neglect is still one of the forms of abuse. Neglect means the lack of involvement of parents in
Absence.
your general upbringing, the absence of parents, the lack of attention paid by parents. Okay, that in itself is a form of abuse because you have a duty of care as a parent. If God has blessed you with a child or two, you owe a duty of care. A duty of care means that you must pay attention. So when there is no attention, you think that all that matters is that you have provided school fees. How the child gets to school
And they
may
have a
not
roof
be,
over their head.
yes, may not
Probably
be a
bought
big deal.
the bigger ones
But,
cars.
yes, but even the best of shoes, designers, and all that. No, the real neglect is the lack of attention, lack of emotional food. Okay, and that's why I said it is still a form of abuse. Abuse generally are broken into four basic types, and neglect is one of those types. Sexual abuse is another. We've seen sexual abuse that has to do with incest, where even fathers would have carnal knowledge of their babies at that tender age. We've also seen emotional abuse. We've seen the physical abuse. Physical abuse, yes, we say spare the rod, spoil the child. But you find that modern parenting, if you start early enough with the child, from when the child is out of the womb, because science has shown us that the child is even aware while inside the womb. Okay?
Right.
So when the child is born, from the day the child is born, if you can speak to the child and there is the belief that the child hears you in the womb, then you can begin to set moral and moral standards for the child at that point. And once you do that, you will find, because for instance, my 2-3 months old puppies, I teach them how to shake hands, how to dance, how to lie down, and all that.
Surprisingly, they will
yes,
know how to do
of course.
Exactly.
At 2, 3, 4 months, they will be able to do it. So how much more human beings, children that are of high level intelligence quotient. So it's all starting in good time. Once this job is done in good time, not wait, then teach the child, even sexuality education that we were deprived of. I'm consciously choosing the word. If you say sex education, it's red light goes up. So sexuality education, so you know that sexuality education is not about teaching the child how to have sex. Sexuality education is teaching the child to know, I am a lady. These are the things that make me distinct as a lady. You are a boy or a man. These are the things that make you distinct. Then behavior pattern. That as a young boy growing up, and that's part of what the Men Against Rape Foundation is doing. As a young boy growing up, you try as much as possible to teach them. The generation 20 years and above is lost.
You are eating into my neck.